Working in vector makes it easy to reuse elements and build coordinating patterns from them. The flowers in these two patterns came from our main motifs, and in the last video we worked with their spacing in pattern editing mode. Now let's move on to this tossed pattern. Tossed layouts have a scattered look, with motifs that are going in all directions like confetti. Getting that random look takes a little finesse, and that's where Space Fill can help. You can find the Space Fill panel in the window menu along with the other Astute graphics panels, and I like to keep it docked here in my custom workspace. To use it, you need a container shape. In my case, that's this 3 by 3 inch square. And here I have the art I want to fill it with. Now I only have one flower, but you can have more if you want. And you can see I took it from this flower in our original motifs, and it's grouped. To start, just select the art and the container shape together, and then over in the panel, click the Make button. Now copies of that flower are filling the square, and if we look at this in outlines, this is live plugin art, so we don't see the vector paths until we expand this later. Now we can adjust the settings, and here we have the number of copies. You can move this up or down, and I'm going to go for fewer so that we open up more space, and I'll leave this at 34 copies. And then there are a lot of other settings. We can resize all the art by a percentage, and we can vary the size of the copies randomly. You can explore all the settings in the documentation by clicking the question mark on the panel, and then just click the Randomize button to get a different arrangement. So I like this one, and then the next step is to put this into repeat. So I need to expand it before we can edit it, and I'm going to Option or Alt drag out a copy and set that aside, just in case I want to return to those space fill settings again. And then I'll select this one, and on the panel, click the Expand button, and in outlines we can see this is just a regular group of vector paths. Now that the art's expanded, we can make a few quick color changes. The art is grouped, so I can double click on it to enter isolation mode, and then I'll go over to the tool panel and get the magic wand tool. And I'll zoom in and select the blue in the background of these flowers. And I like doing this in isolation so I don't select this blue everywhere else in my file. And then over in swatches, I'll change this to white. And now I'll zoom out and exit isolation mode by double clicking. And I want this pattern to have a blue background. So I'll select the 3 by 3 square and just flip the fill in the stroke with the keyboard shortcut Shift X. So we can see that white really makes the flowers pop. And I'm going to take this next into pattern mode. So let's go to Object, Pattern, Make, and click OK. And now we'll refine the repeat. So here we can see that the flowers are lined up at the edges of the tile, and so we're going to need to make this a little more disorganized looking to hide the repeat. First, I'm going to ungroup these flowers, and then go back to Illustrator's selection tool stack and get Inflate Deflate again. And we looked at this in the last video. And here I'll just drag out a bit to move these a little closer to the tile edge. So we're not scaling the flowers, just the spacing. And then I can spend a little time here balancing this out, but I'm going to fast forward here so you don't have to wait on me. And now this one is looking good. So Spacefill gave us a great head start on creating this toss pattern. Next, we're going to add some color. And for this, I'm using another Astute graphics panel, Randomino. It has the dice icon, and you can find this in the window menu under Astute graphics. You can randomize a lot of things with this panel, but I'm just using it for color here. And I need to load in some color swatches first. So here in the swatches panel, I've got my swatches for this project. And this color group here, blue and green, is the current colorway. And I'm going to select 3 colors from this. But first, make sure you deselect the art. And then in the swatches panel, I'll click the yellow and holding Shift, get the apple green, and then hold Command or Control to select this one way over here, the cornflower. Now, back to the Randomino panel. In Add From Selected, I'll click the Swatches button, and that adds those 3 colors into the panel. Now I'll use my magic wand tool and select the yellow in the flowers, and then I can click this button in the panel to apply those 3 colors randomly. And let's turn off the edge highlighting so we can see this better. That's Command or Control H to hide edges. And then you can keep hitting the Randomize button until you see a color combination or a balance that you like. Great. Let's go to the upper left corner and click the arrow to exit and save. So between Space Fill and Randomino, we really cut down a lot of the tedious part of making a toss pattern. Now here, I love to have fun exploring color with Illustrator's Recolor artwork feature. Here we have 2 of our coordinates, and we're going to put them into our second colorway. And we can see this over in the swatches panel. I've already set up a group of colors here called Lilac and Coral. And I always remind my pattern design students that putting your palettes in these color group folders is a major shortcut in Recolor artwork. First, I'll select the tossed pattern fill, and then I'll go up to the top control bar and click on the color wheel button to open Recolor artwork. Now in this menu, Color Library, Swatch Group, there's the Lilac and Coral palette. Once you apply it, you can shuffle the colors with this button, and this is different from Randomino. This is changing the positions of the colors, swapping one for another. And you can always use the forward and back button to go through the options you have. So let's see, I actually like the first one the best. And when you're done, just click away to complete that. And then Illustrator creates a new copy of this pattern fill swatch for us, and it's now in the swatches panel. Okay, let's select the other pattern fill, and we'll do the same thing. Opening Recolor artwork, and in the color library menu, select our color group, and we can shuffle a bit here. And then if we move over into advanced options, there's so much you can do here to play with this. All right, now we've got our toss pattern and we've played with color. And in the next video, we're going to wrap up with some quick tips for presenting your patterns.